some days I was like, I don't know where I'm gonna end up today. Was I gonna put a hole through a wall? Was I gonna destroy another room? Was I going? I didn't know. And
Everyone, thanks for joining us. We're here today with Luke Bohnenberger. Did I get that right?
yes, you did.
Okay. We're very excited. Luke has a website called Luke Speaks, and he is very inspirational, a TBI survivor, and you do some coaching, correct?
Yes, I'm a brain coach who specializes in brain injury recovery.
Okay, so
You're in the right place.
yeah, you're in the right place. Can you tell us all about how you got involved and your TBI experience?
Yeah, absolutely. First, I want to say, Tracy, Brenda, thank you so much for having me on here. This is awesome. So in 2015, I was in a really bad car accident and sustained a severe traumatic brain injury and went through the whole ordeal, right? I had my skull removed for 3 months, was in and out of the hospital for 4 years, dealing with infections, surgery, seizures, emotional regulation. It was a long journey. It was a very rewarding journey, but also very it beat me down a lot too. I'm not gonna say I woke up and it was like not in the victim mindset and woke up as a motivational speaker and said I'm gonna be a brain injury coach. That's not how this journey went at all. No. There was a lot of victim mindset. There was a lot of downtime where I just said, I'm just gonna stay on the ground. I'm just gonna give up. But all that was all part of the journey. So today I was blessed to become a speaker in the beginning, and I've been blessed to travel the country speaking. And then I found my calling when I started working one-on-one. It happened during COVID. Speaking obviously wasn't big anymore during COVID. I wasn't able to go on stages and stuff. And I got asked to work with someone, and I loved it. I loved just the one-on-one. Then I did some groups. I said, I'm very involved with the Brain Injury Association of South Carolina. I'm on the board of directors, and I'm also a speaker for the Brain Injury Association of America. So I've had many opportunities to be able to speak, many times running support groups, being able to advocacy, and just really like to involve myself in the community because even though my journey was long, even though there was a lot of ups and downs, I still count myself as very blessed, and I need to be able to give back what I've been given and make sure others have the opportunities that I got.
Fantastic.
You know what, Trey?
Yeah.
I think this is a perfect segue into my question of the day.
Okay.
If that's
Go
okay.
ahead.
So thank you for being patient. Luke, in your story on your website, which Tracy mentioned, and I recommend everybody goes check it out because your website is fabulous. But in there, and when I read your story, you mentioned that you're rock bottom. And I recently heard someone say, oh, and I know I'm way behind in hearing this because I don't think it's new. Someone said that rock bottom can actually be a trampoline, which I loved. And so we can explore that later. But my question for you is if you if you feel that you hitting your rock bottom was actually essential for you getting to where you are today.
Yes. So one of my quotes I say is the rock bottom's the foundation to my success. And it wasn't, I don't think there's any just one rock bottom. I think there are many different layers to rock bottom. I like to picture those, like, it's not like a straight rock. And there's many, I hit rock bottom, like, oh gosh, it's my rock bottom. And all of a sudden I was tested to dig deeper for some reason.
Right.
There are many layers to rock bottom. And I also don't believe there's just one single turning point as well. There's many turning points throughout the whole journey. But I will say, when I talk about rock bottom, I talk about the foundation of pain and being the essence of it. And I'm a strong believer we can find purpose to everything, and that includes pain. So I was able to take pain and recycle it to be my purpose. I was able to take it to learn something from it, to say, I'm not going to let pain take anything else from me. I'm going to take something from it. And so I can't teach you how to get used to pain, but I like to teach people how to get used out of pain. And so that was the foundation. It was like, what can I do with these moments? Like, these are the worst times of my life. I was like, what can I take from these? Because if I can take something from it, then it no longer becomes this thing that weighs me down. It's no longer the ball and chain. It's something that I can use to propel me forward.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I love that.
So Trey, I know that for you and I, we've never actually explored or called what happened to either of us, our rock bottom. And I hope, and Luke, you just talked about there's many kinds of many layers to it. And I actually wrote a note to myself. I assumed that that was our rock bottom, but who knows if there's more coming?
Yeah, be
Right,
Who
careful.
knows?
right.
Don't test it. Don't test it.
But assuming that it was at least a rock bottom, Trey,
Yeah.
I guess I pose the same question to us. Do you feel that for you, that that particular rock bottom 22 years ago was essential to you getting to where you are today? And for me, what happened 6 years ago was it essential to where I am today? Is my question for myself. So you go first.
Was it my rock bottom? Well, I will say my rock bottom propelled me into this direction only because I was on a much different path. I was on my way to get certified as a teacher, and I was a director of a learning center, and everything was go, 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 and just going through the motions. So I will say that it redirected me. The brain aneurysm rupture and stroke just caused me to look at my health, take it easy, sit back, reevaluate, heal. And a lot of other qualities about myself did come up that I discovered. I can say that I learned that I am much more resilient than I thought I was. Um, I found out that I do have a very high tolerance for pain. Not
Yeah.
knowing that I was bleeding in the brain for an entire night and next day. Just thinking it was a bad headache. But so I learned that about myself. And then it really did as I started feeling better and getting stronger and recovering more. Meeting so many different people just on the support groups online at first. And then driving me to start a support group because I didn't feel I had a lot back in 2004. So I never wanted anyone to feel that loneliness and that confusion and fear. So, it did. It propelled me to start a support group and then really go into more going in front of groups. I'm not an actual public speaker, but I do like sharing my story to help others and just to help inspire others to not to give up and, all that goes along with it. So, yeah, I would say my rock bottom and, I keep hitting mini rock bottoms.
Yeah. That's the key.
Seems to be once every other year or so. I get tested again, but
And you're like, oh wait, I thought I hit
yeah.
rock bottom. What's
So it
this?
definitely wasn't the rock bottom that I initially experienced, but definitely
Right.
I've been challenged in the
Right.
recent past and many times before. So yeah, that I would say definitely that it has propelled me to where I am now. So how about you, Brent?
Oh, thank you. So, look, when you were talking about, you didn't put it this way, but very often I say to myself, gotta put purpose in the pain. I go to that, and I also say meaning in the madness because there's craziness. So I'm looking for purpose and meaning in all of this. So I would say emphatically, and the way that I think that COVID didn't really cause issues, but it would sometimes reveal things about people. I would say that my rock bottom revealed. It didn't change me.
Right.
And I think it's very funny when people have even said to me before, you're different. I'm like, no, I'm not so different. You just see what was in there. It was in there all along. I just didn't let it out.
Right.
And what this did was it kind of like threw a picture almost like an emergency brake of like, slow down, lady. You've got more important things to do.
Right.
So that's kind of what the past 6 years has been for me. And Tracy, you throw out this kind of like wacky idea of like, let's do a podcast. It's so not like me to say okay, but I said okay, and thank God I said okay. And Luke, because of that, I get to meet you. I would have never in a million years met you. So this is fabulous. So I would say yes, definitely my rock bottom. Look where it got me. I got me right here today. So
Yeah.
that's great.
Look at you every week getting on here with me and just meeting new people and learning
Right.
more and you just need a little encouragement, that's all. Little push from your husband and your kids and me.
And yeah, absolutely. Okay.
I love
So
it.
Yeah.
back to you, Luke.
Yes, you wanted to add something about your the question of the day?
I was just going to be like, first of all, thank you both for sharing. I see this so much in this community. I see it with any type of trauma. where there's just this beautiful symptom of wanting to give back, and you go through something, and it's a beautiful human symptom. Uh, and I just love that y'all have turned something. Y'all literally are the definition of recycling pain. Tracy, you are a public speaker. If you speak in public, you're the definition. So don't take that away from you.
A virtual public, yeah.
Hey, that's what it is these days. It's a lot of
Yes.
it is virtual. But yeah, I mean, you got to take something from these experiences, and they do change. But you got to take a moment to pause and witness the change. We can't just let the change happen. We have to take a moment to reflect and witness it, not just through our own perspective, but from other perspectives as well. And I think that's what it is. And so perspective is a huge aspect of it. All of us change, but how are we looking at that change? That's really what defines it.
And what do you mean by others' reflections of what we've gone through?
I think it's I think it's very important when we talk about, perspectives, that we don't just live through our own perspective, that we try to understand from other perspectives. For me, one big change in my recovery was taking the professional side. When I became a certified brain coach and started working within hospitals and talking to neuroscientists and neurologists, I worked in rehabs as a volunteer and talking to all of these professionals, all these different types. I wanted to understand their perspective. Then I started working with caregivers. I was even coaching caregivers. I coach caregivers now, but I wanted to get a 3D perspective to just understand the human side of it. And that is a beautiful way of looking at it, because now I have empathy from all different perspectives. And that helps, right? Because we see a lot in the brain injury community. There is a lot of down talk on the medical side, and I do see it. Unfortunately, I do see the downside. A lot of times we are just another number coming through the hospital or something. But I also see the other side of it, and I see that these people who get in this field do care deeply, and it's sometimes just misinformation. So it's good to get all sides, all perspectives.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
totally agree. Brenda, did you have a question? I didn't want to interrupt.
Well, I was just gonna say, based on something you just said, look, like the negative stuff is out there, and I say to people all the time, I absolutely see the negative. I feel the challenges. I live with them, but I also choose to focus on the positive, and that's what I hear from what you're saying. Yes, there is some challenges from the medical side of things, but there's also beauty. And for you to be able to focus that, and I love the notion that grass is greener where you water it.
Yes.
You can be aware of the things that need to change, the problems. Absolutely. We have to be. That's what advocacy is. We have to be out, and we have to be able to make those changes. When I was in DC, I visited congresswomen and men talking about the Brain Injury Act, and we had to be aware of the problems in the system. But you can do that and coexist at the same time, to be thankful for that there are systems in place to help, and the changes that we've had over the years. I mean, if I would have had my injury 10 years before, I probably wouldn't be here. I probably wouldn't be able to communicate with you the same way. So there are a lot of breakthroughs, and there are a lot of people in the field that do care deeply. My neurosurgeon, the first team that worked on me, at this point, I already flatlined once in the hospital. I had the ambulance. I did get a defibrillator and to bring me back to life. And then when I came to the hospital, I was needing a blood transfusion. My body was beaten. My brain was swelling. And the first team was like, he's not going to make it. Pretty much was like, let's not put any more effort into this. I was very thankful. I had a neurosurgeon that was like, no, he's too young to give up on. So we have to look at both sides, and being aware that there are problems, and also being thankful that there's solutions and there's ways where can coexist. They can coexist at the same time.
Can I ask what your neurosurgeon's name was so we can give him a shout out?
Yeah, Dr. Stephen Gardner. And he's retired now.
Thank you, Doctor.
He's retired now. Good for him. I'm sure he has a beautiful retirement package, but well deserved. But I'm very thankful for him. We created a relationship to where I actually have his personal number, and we've talked. And just very thankful for him. And there were many people in the hospital I'm thankful for. Nurses I kept in touch with, and when people I had to go back to and apologize because of things I said when my unfiltered brain was deciding to talk about me. But in all graces. But yeah, I'm very thankful. But it's also important to be aware of where change needs to take place.
Definitely. I absolutely agree. Now, can you tell us what you were doing before the accident happened? What field you were in, and a little bit about your life
So
pre-TBI?
my accident was in 2015, so it was a little over 10 years ago. I was in college. I was
Okay.
fresh out of high school. So I graduated high school in 2014, and so I was fresh out of high school. I was 18 when the accident happened.
Wow.
So at that point, I'm not this story to where like, oh, my whole life changed. I was a bad person, now I'm a good person. And then you see that, oh, I wasn't. I was, I had a career. I mean, I was going for a career and I was going for these things, but then my accident happened and things changed. But I will say, before my accident, I was like, oh, 10 years from now and all this stuff. After my accident, I was just focused on getting to the next day. And that's where
Yeah.
we see. So there was definitely a shift in perspective versus, hey, I got to look out 5 years from now versus I got to look to see how I'm going to make it through this damn morning.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
This one
And
it's
so, yeah,
yeah.
I know you feel me, Brenda. I saw that. Yeah, you're feeling. It's
Absolutely.
true. There's a huge shift. Like, oh, I'm 5 years versus I'm next 5 hours. Like that's,
Right.
there were days after my injury where my goal was to make it to bed that night because I knew it was that tough mentally.
Wow.
My
Yeah.
biggest part of the biggest part of my injury was my emotions. And there were some days I was like, I don't know where I'm gonna end up today. What was I gonna put a hole through a wall? Was I gonna destroy another room? Was I going to
Wow.
be suicidal? Well, I didn't know. And that's what was scary. The one thing I had control over that was like, I'm just rolling dice every day. So sometimes my only goal was, gotta make it to bed tonight. And I gotta make sure no one is in the path of my tornado while I get there.
I did read your background on your website where you did touch on that a lot of the emotional and personality changes that you went through and dealt with. Did you have any physical effects from your TBI?
So when I first woke up, my left side had some paralysis. Like I needed to relearn how to walk. But it came back very fast. Like where they were telling my family 6 months, look for about 6 months or so. I was walking within a week to 2 weeks. I came back.
Wow.
Now there are a lot of factors in that, right? And from a brain perspective, I was young. Which definitely plays a role. I was an athlete before. I was very involved in the gym. I wasn't a drinker. I wasn't a smoker. So I like to say my whole life built me up for just that 5 minutes, or it was probably 30 seconds. The car accident probably happened within. It was like everything I did was an airbag for that accident. And so very, very blessed that I took care of myself before the accident. I tell people brain injuries, but without brain injuries, I was like, you got to take care of your health because you never know when tragedy is going to be knocking and you got to be ready for it.
I totally agree with that. Yeah.
And I would even say for people who will end up being caregivers of someone else,
Mhm.
they need to also care for themselves because they need a different kind of strength and energy and resilience and persistence to get through from their perspective. Right?
Absolutely. Caregivers, they're also hit with trauma, right? And that takes a toll on the body, just like anything else. When they're hit, they're having to just take the wheel. And so if they're not physically or mentally prepared, they can also find themselves and a lot. And it's very important to care for the caregiver. Yeah.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Who was helping you after your accident? Who was your caregiver?
So my main support was my mom. Love her to death. My mom and stepdad. It wasn't that my parents were divorced, but my mom had the most resource and time to take care of me at that time. But then later down the road, it was my wife who at that time, I wasn't dating her when the accident happened, but after the accident, a year or so after, we started dating and we thought at that point, okay, I'm past all of it. And all of a sudden I was like back in for surgeries. I had a non-traumatic brain injury from an infection in my brain and I had to have my skull taken out and again and replaced. So where my wife was like, met me after, she even though we thought, oh, we're good, we're past this. This is my past. I thought I was telling her a story of my past, when in reality I was setting her up for the future.
Here
Because she
comes
did become
another
the kid.
piece of the rock bottom, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Another layer of that.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. So you went through another brain surgery a year after the original accident.
So I had 7 brain surgeries, and all of them within 4 years. So the first brain surgery was a craniectomy, which was to remove my skull immediately to allow the brain to swell. And, and then I had some brain bleeds that were all done within that time. And then about a year out, I had a hematoma, subdermal hematoma, probably from a fall. people with brain injuries are 3 times more likely to sustain another brain injury. So that was my next. But throughout this whole time, throughout the 4 years, we didn't know, and it could have been a lot of the symptoms that were coming up, not from the original brain injury, but from this infection that I had from the skull that they put back in. And eventually I was in antibiotics. I was in and out of hospitals. I was going to a cancer institution every 3 days to get my kidney levels checked because the antibiotics I was on, which was a PICC line in my arm and fed to my heart, was pumping such a high dose of antibiotics that we had to get my kidneys checked. My wife and my mom both should be certified nurses at this point. They had to put in the saline. They had to do all this.
Luke, what are their names? Your mom and your wife?
My mom's name is Star, but you can call her Mom. That's M-O-M. And my wife is Jenny.
Jenny. Oh, Star and Jenny. Hi, Jenny.
Hi, Star. Hi, Jenny. Thank you so much for taking care of this guy.
Yes,
they did a great job. My wife's still my caregiver. She'll always be. I don't know if that's because I'm a brain injury survivor or I'm a husband, but they're caregivers either way.
2 things can be true at once.
Yes, exactly.
That's incredible, all that you went through. I mean, you've been through it. You really have. So you're well prepared to do what you're doing now. When did you decide to be a brain coach? I know you wanted to go into advocacy, but what was the certification that you got first? So
before I became a brain coach, it started with me being a speaker. And it was the first time I ever spoke was at a church. And I remember, I don't remember, but I have pictures and videos. I was speaking with the helmet on. My helmet's up there if you can see it. It's and I spoke on stage with the helmet on, sharing my story, and I was just sharing it. I didn't realize how impactful it would be. I just was like, this is what's going on in my life. Little to know that I was still going through the journey while I was sharing it. And then I got reached out by a very big speaker named Les Brown. Now, Les Brown is a big motivational speaker of his time. So I was invited to join the institute to be trained on speaking. And then I joined Toastmasters. And I wanted to perfect this skill because I was like, wow, I actually now have a purpose to me being an extrovert. I've always been an extrovert, but it's like now there's a purpose behind it. So I was like, I'm going to get on stage and share the story, and I was able to shape it. And I became a life coach, and I was doing that. But then as time progressed, I was like, I really got involved in knowing the brain. It was probably the biggest change in my recovery was education. I believe a big part of healing involves learning. And so I was like, the more I learned about the brain and why I was acting this way, what was going on, the more control I felt. The more I realized it's not personal, it's neurological. So I was like, that's the key. To me, that's the key. To excel in your recovery, you have to understand what your brain is doing. So because one big factor of an injured brain is we start taking things personal, or we start thinking this is me forever, or we start having these negative thoughts and we don't understand that just like the body, the brain is healing as soon as it gets injured. But just like the body, if we aren't supporting that healing, is it going to heal in a way that we can live our life that we want to live? So the best example I give, if you break your leg, does your body ask you permission to start healing? No. It immediately starts healing. However, if you don't put a cast on it, is it going to heal in a way that you're going to be able to walk again or run? Probably not. You got to put a cast. You got to go to physical. You have to support that. The brain's the same way. It'll start healing, but we have to be able to guide it, and we have to cast it. And I think that cast to healing is education. So I was like, I want to know more and more about the brain. I started reading books. I started talking to my neurosurgeon. I started having these conversations with my neurologist and other people, experts, when I was in the hospital being a volunteer. I was like, I want to know more and more. And I became a nerd obsessed with the brain. And the more I understood, the more obsessed I became, the more I was able to heal, the more I was able to emotionally regulate, the more skills I was able to take into my life. And I was like, I need to be able to teach people this from a point where I've lived it. Like, I want to make it understandable to survivors from my personal side. So I started studying, and I said, I'm going to become a certified brain coach, and I specialized in that and so forth. I'm certified in the brain injury fundamentals. I'm trained and certified brain injury specialist, training in it. And I just became involved in this world and to understand what's making us tick.
It's incredible.
And Luke, did you start doing that within the year after, or is it?
No. So yeah, I mean, the year right after my injury, I was speaking. That was immediately. So that's why the name Luke Speaks is my business, Luke Speaks TBI. Because I started speaking immediately, and then I started going on stages and so forth. But I started the business in 2017 to be a speaker, and then when COVID hit, it sort of transformed into coaching, and then it sort of just like domino effected.
Evolved, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have to say the fact that you started with speaking and that you're out here, because really when Tracy first approached me, it was kind of like, hey, we're having these conversations, we're connecting. Let's do the same for other people. And that's really what we're going for. That we're not on a big stage and speaking like you, but hopefully we are reaching people so they don't feel alone, so they feel connected. That's our goal.
You are doing that already. I can promise you. Because when you do this and you post it on TikTok, one person sees it. That person shares that experience later down the road, and it is a domino effect. That's what's beautiful about sharing your story is you don't know that you sharing your story might have impacted hundreds of people just through one person, and it just goes that way. So don't hope, you are actually doing it. So both y'all both are awesome, and continue doing it. Seriously.
Thank you so much. And
It is
the message we try to get out there is that through your pain, through your experience and recovery, yeah, you go through hell sometimes and it's not easy and you get frustrated and you might get knocked down a few times to somehow find some kind of humor in your experience. You know, that's why we call it the lighter side, because we talked for several months before we decided to do the podcast. And somehow, you know, we had very different experiences with our strokes. But somehow we experienced many similarities where, you know, our frustrations or something we went through and, you know, we decided that those little victories is what we have to focus on. And somehow through our conversations, we set up a bi-weekly meet up on Facebook Messenger, just a video chat to reconnect. And we did that every other week for several months. And somehow we would always laugh a ton. And I'm like, you know, I really think that I know my humor, my sense of humor got me through, I would say, 95% of my life. Even before the aneurysm rupture happened. But yeah, we try to let people feel that when you're here with us, there's no dumb question. There's no limit to what you want to share or not share. What you're feeling, your frustrations, or, you know, some people don't want to share too much. And that's okay too. And sometimes they just want to sit back and listen. And we're hoping that even if they're just sitting back and listening and they don't comment or they don't ask to be on the show, that they're still impacted somehow. And I think that's what our biggest goal is, just to somehow reach as many people as we can to give themselves permission to feel what they're feeling.
Yes.
And move forward, however long it takes.
Right.
You know,
I think it's great because you talk about laughter, and laughter is so important. After my injury, I started within all the same frame, and I started stand-up comedy. So I used to do stand-up comedy, and
oh my God.
and I found it it was medicine. It was both also another trauma because it was tough. You think you're funny until you get on stage and you're like, oh, these people. But it is to share your story, put the lighter side. There's so many benefits to laughter. We're talking about chemically wise. I mean, to be able to feel what you feel is very important. To be vulnerable with your injury and to be able to speak about it, however that may be, whether it's through writing, whether it's through podcasts or on stage, it's very important. And I would say, yeah, in one of the things that one of my talks I get on recycling pain, one a great way to recycle your pain is through humor. So I'm happy you mentioned that.
Oh yeah, it's incredible how much, you know, I can go from crying and feeling so horrible to something just funny, whether it's I trip over something or something was said to me and, you know, my response to it or whatever it might have been. I can go from crying to laughing in a matter of, you know, a minute. And you just feel so much better, like those endorphins kick in, and you know, it puts you in a different mood. And you know, it's not always easy, and I'm not saying what we've gone through is funny or a joke, but there are moments of humor and moments of laughter that I have always hung on to.
And I am sure you both have said, because I found myself saying sometimes, if I don't laugh, I might cry.
Yeah.
If I have to pick one or the other, I'm going to laugh.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I go laugh.
Uh,
And
Some might think I'm crazy for what I'm laughing at, but it's save me.
you know, yeah, you have to be able to laugh at yourself. I mean, I don't take myself too seriously at all. I mean, I don't think you can. I mean, if you're taking yourself so seriously, you must be a very tense person. And
Mhm.
I don't want to live my life that way. So, yeah, I laugh at myself. Sometimes I laugh at my circumstance. Like, I can't believe I'm in this predicament now or this situation, but I'll try to make the best of it. I'll try to learn something from it and somehow find the strength to move forward. I try to give that information and those feelings, express them to other people so that hopefully they're kind of doing the same thing.
Yeah,
So Trey, I think this is a perfect segue to ask Luke for a tip of the day. I feel like one of us is going to say the tip of the day is to laugh. But so, Luke, we like to end our episodes with each of us giving a tip of the day. And it could be for survivors, it could be for caregivers, it could be for someone else who's just happens to be tuning in. Lucky you. Aren't you lucky that you're tuning into us? So, Luke,
so
we'll let you start with the tip of the day.
tip of the day. I'm gonna go back to what I said. Is well, I'll say this. This is something I always say. Don't be a backseat passenger to your recovery. And I think it's funny to say it like that because I was a backseat passenger in my accident. So it's funny to say.
Oh,
But
wow.
but yeah, don't be a backseat passenger in recovery. A lot of people are going through the recovery and they're just going through the motions. The doctors tell them, hey, do this, take this, do this rehab, take this, and they're doing it. And I'm not saying that's bad, but understand why you're doing it. The biggest advocate for you needs to be you. So it's important that you are sitting in the front seat. And I'm not saying drive the whole time. Sometimes we need to pace, there's push and pace, allow your caregiver, but understand what is happening, ask the questions, be involved. Don't just let the car self drive. Be a part of the process. So I always say don't be a backseat passenger to your recovery. So that would be my tip of the day.
I
That's
love
a
that.
great tip. That's a great
Yes.
Trey,
Oh my gosh. I didn't prepare a tip of the day. Let me think. I
but you
usually have
were giving a great one before. I kind of thought that would be your tip of the day was laugh.
the laughter, just
Yeah.
being able to laugh at yourself and look at, your struggles. Sometimes there's funny moments, whether it's a physical therapy. There were a ton of funny moments with me trying to do an exercise or tripping or something where I might have hurt, I might have been a tad embarrassed, but I just get through it by laughing. I mean, you just don't take yourself too seriously. Take your recovery seriously and definitely be an advocate for yourself. But just try to use some laughter and look at the lighter side of things. That's my tip.
And that ends up giving other people permission to do the same, which is great.
Yeah.
So my tip, so my husband and I were just talking yesterday about how important it is to just chip away at things. And I've said this out here before to you, Tracy, but so Luke, sometimes I feel like somebody put Mount Everest in front of me and handed me a teaspoon and said, move that mountain. All I have is a teaspoon. And so when you're doing it, you feel like you're not making any progress. But every now and then, step back because maybe you have moved a little bit of the mountain. You still have plenty to do, but keep chipping away because you're making a difference.
That's
Absolutely.
beautiful. That's beautiful. Search for progress, even if it's just 1%,
And I read somewhere today that progress looks very different. You might be focused on doing one skill that you lost and you're working so hard and you're like, I haven't accomplished it yet. But you don't realize how much your brain has already accomplished just by getting pushed to do more. And you've made a ton of progress in other areas that you might not see right away.
That's right.
Yeah, that's what I would add. And what were you going to say, Luke? I'm sorry.
No, you're perfectly fine. You're perfectly fine. I was just gonna be like, yeah, I like the chip of the day because, yeah, I mean, just work on moving something, and what I always like to be, and I said this in a TikTok, sometimes it feels like we took 5 steps forward and then 10 steps pulled us back. But understand you're never starting back at zero because you've learned something along the process. So progress doesn't even have to be about accomplishing something. It could just be learning something, whether it's about yourself, your environment, the people around you. So And that's huge. It's huge. Perspective is huge in a recovery. And that's not just, oh, it sounds nice. That is once again neurological. Everything goes back to it makes a difference. Hope is neurological, perspective is neurological, laughter is neurological. All these things are important for your brain. So be very intentional about them.
So
I love that. That's a great way to wrap this up. Thank you so much, Luke.
yes. Luke, would you be willing to maybe do a live with me on TikTok sometime?
We should. That would be
Yeah.
fun.
I
Yes.
think that would be a
Yeah.
lot of fun. We're trying to get Brenda on TikTok. She did register for an account. Well, she logged into ours, but we've got to get this one on. She's not a
One step
social
closer.
media fan.
Brenda, I am not a social media fan either. So, and I grew up with it. I mean, not completely. I'm sort of the generation where I'm in the gap, right? I was born the same year Google was born, I think. But or no, it was after me. I don't know when Google, but I wasn't born with social media, but I adapted to it. But I not a huge fan, because I understand it takes consistency. I also love talking, but I don't like talking to a camera and then worrying about posting it later. I like interaction talking, so that's new to me.
Right.
So I'm still adjusting, but it's building. It does make a difference because later down the road, it does build. I'm very thankful my TikTok's really starting to build now. And I know people you can promote them and stuff like that. And I tried that one. Brenda, it's take your time, but I would advise I do advise getting on social media because it's a great tool to connect with people from all over the world. And just start slowly, whether it's a picture with a quote on it, but it does make an impact. Even if you're just going on to enjoy other people's content and repost content. If you repost it reaches out to more people. I'm gonna challenge you to try. But
Well, she's got it tough. Her kids have warned her. There's a lot of strange things going on TikTok, and you just have to filter through to what you really want to get out of it. So
yeah,
I told her it's not all about doing the fad dances and showing off your new bathing suit and, watch me get ready in the morning. There's some real educational content out there, and I've met so many
Right.
wonderful people.
Well,
I just started with TikTok.
Luke, if you're an example of what can come out of it, then I'm a believer.
Yeah.
there you
Yeah.
go.
I
You
just
got
want her to get on and just kind of scroll through and get used to it. And then maybe start doing a live with me. I make most of the videos, and then I started this car chat thing where I talk to the camera when I'm driving to an appointment and just, chatting about whatever I'm going through. And those are fun, but I want to do more with Brenda being, together, but she's in Montreal, but there's things we could do with our phones and,
Yep.
our cameras. So that's what my goal is with Brenda. So we'll get her there. Well, Luke, thank you so much for being on with us, and we welcome you to come back anytime.
Thank you so much for having me. Y'all are awesome. Keep doing what you're doing. You are making a difference. I promise you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes, appreciate that. That means a lot coming from you. We will keep in touch, and I will follow you on all the socials and your website, see what you're up to.
Thank you. Yep, we got some speaking stuff coming up soon. We got the Brain Injury Association's the annual conference in South Carolina. I'll be speaking there. Not sure if you're around. And then I'm the MC for the National Brain Injury Conference in DC. And I was invited to Philadelphia, so fingers crossed. There's stuff coming. It's coming.
Wow.
Fabulous. I love it. Can we please, put up a little autograph for us, and
right.
I'll take a snapshot. No, thank you so much. And I look forward to listening to you more and watching your videos because you are making a huge impact. And I love listening to you speak. All right,
means
so
a lot.
we'll see you soon. And Brenda, I hope you have a great night, and we'll touch base soon enough. Thank you everyone for watching. Bye-bye.
Some days I was like, I don't know where I'm gonna end up today. What was I gonna put a hole through a wall? Was I gonna destroy another room? I didn't, and that's what was scary. The one thing I had control over that was like, I'm just rolling dice so sometimes my only goal was gotta make it to bed tonight. And I gotta make sure no one is in the path of my tornado while I get there.